Good morning, Mr. Leshens here, and we are moving to the sine rule. We already discussed it at the end of last lesson. I'm going to quickly go through it also because I didn't record it. The sine rule, okay, so we're still in trig, okay, but as I said last time, we call it this chapter trig triangles, and it's much more, I would say, practical. It's a bit more like geometry without the proof, so it will be easier than the trig chapter we did before. So we're taking a triangle. It can be any kind of triangle. It doesn't have to be right angle triangle. Okay? And we're using these letters to show the angle, A, B, and C, and the side, A, B, and C. And the convention is, most times you'll see that capital letters are for the angles, okay? These are angles, and the little letters are for the sides. Okay? And the sine rule tells us, okay, that sine A over little a, let's hear from you, will be equal to sine B over little b, which is equal also to sine C over C. That ratio between the sine of the angle and the side is the same for all of them. But we said sometimes it's better to write it in the other form, where we basically just flip all the fractions. So A over sine A will be equal to B over sine B, which is equal to C over sine C. Okay, so that is what we're working with. This is our tool, the sine rule. Okay, I'll pause here and we'll go through one example. Done this example last lesson, but I'll just quickly repeat it. We've got a triangle with specific numbers and one side. And let's say we want to find out AB. We want to know what that is. Okay? So what we said, the first thing we need to do is figure out the angle, which you very correctly realize that they add up to 180, so that should be 70. That's the first. Then you're going to say, okay, I want to know what AB is. Okay? Now, I need to decide which one of the version of the sine rule should I choose. Should I put the side on the top and the angle at the bottom, or the angle at the top? Which one should be the top? Well, you don't want the sine at the top. You want the sine. So what we will say is AB over sine 70 will be equal to 10 over sine. 10 divided by sine. It's always the sine, the angle opposite. Sine 50, right? Okay? Now, why was that better? If we wrote this, we could have done sine 70, look like this, sine 70 over AB equals sine 50 over 10. But then the AB is at the bottom. I want him to be at the top because I want to find out what it is. Remember that one? Okay, so we don't want to go that way. Then all we got to do is just have it by sine 70. That's all we got to do. AB equal 10 sine 70 divided by sine 50. And you put it in the calculator and you get your answer. Okay, we've done it last lesson and I'm going to ask you to do it again. Are we happy with that? Okay, so that's the first type of question. So in this triangle, we're actually given, instead of two angles, we're given one angle, but now we have to be given two sides. It's always going to work like that. You're going to get three things. It can either be two sides, one angle, or two angles on one side. And now we actually want to know what this angle is. Angle B. Okay? What is the equation that I can write down? I'm going to use the sine rule. Okay? Well, what should I put there? Should I use the sines at the top or the sides at the top? You want to use the sines at the top because you want that. Eventually, you want to find out what sine D is, right? We want to find what sine D, and once I know what sine D is, then I can find D by just doing the inverse. So we're definitely going to say sine D divided by something. What must I divide sine D by? Oh, hang on, I don't even know it. Okay, so that I've got a little bit of an extra problem. Let's try and figure out with you why do I have an extra problem. Okay, if I had sine D, what do I need to divide by sine D? According to the sine. Which side, right? I always divide the sine.
C.
But there's no C here. You gotta use which side?
EF.
EF, right? EF. Do we know EF? We don't know. So we don't know sine D and we don't know EF. That doesn't work, isn't it? So that means I won't be able to find out sine D directly. I'll just pause. It was a question. So the question, there was a question we were asking, can't we use Pythagoras? Do maybe 20 squared minus 7 squared? But Pythagoras, guys, remember, only works for 90 degrees triangle. This works for any triangle, but Pythagoras only for 90 degrees. So my conclusion is really, I can't really at this point find the angle D. Okay? But that's not a big deal, because if I find, let's say I find angle F, how would I find angle D? If I found F, 180 minus those two, right? So let's try instead find sine F. Okay? Sine F divided by what? In the sine rule, what do I need to divide sine F by? DE. Right? Because it's always the sine of an angle divided by the side opposite. But DE, I know what it is. What is it? 7. Okay? And that must be equal to, okay, what? What can I use a sine rule? What's that going to be equal to? Sine what? 100. Sine 100, because I know the 100. Okay? There's no point of saying sine D, because I don't know what sine D is. But 100 I know. So it's sine 100 divided by 20. You see, you're always going to set up an equation where one is unknown and the other 3 must be known. Okay? Now that's dead easy to find. Sine F will be equal to 7 times sine 100 divided by 220, right?
20.
What's 20? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, can I'm just taking a risk here and asking something. Can I say, oh, hang on guys, 20 and 100, that's 5 and 1. Can I just write that as 7 sine 5? Can I, what do you call cross cancel? No. Of course not. Okay, it's not sine time 100. Okay, it's sine 100. I can't cross cancel things here. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so, alright. Is that the answer now? Sine F? Not exactly, because I want F. What is F? The angle F. How would I find the angle F? Divide by sine? It's not sine time F. How do I find the angle? I know what sine of the angle is. Inverse sine. And that's why I recommend don't put that in the calculator yet. What I want you to put in the calculator, sine minus 1 of 7 sine 100 divided by 20. Put that in your calculator just as it is. Okay, let's see what we get. So we get 20,16 degrees. Now, is this the final answer? We gotta remember which angle did they ask for us. Okay, I just pause, wait for you. I can see you're right. You're checking the calculator. You happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So don't forget, guys. They actually asked for D, not for F. So just like you guys said, to get D, I'm gonna do 180 minus, and I'll add these two together. I can do it in my head. Okay. 20.16 plus 100 is 120,16, and I should get 9,84. Yeah, degrees. Okay, we're happy with that, guys, right? If I use the calculator to find that number here, and then use sine minus that number, that would have been maybe, you can try it, but you could have maybe got 20,15 or 20,17, which will then change your result a little bit. So it's better to use the calculator only in the last one. Right, let's practice this. Cheerios.